Hello, good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be chairing the 6th webinar organised by the European Board of Medical Assessors along with Liberta de Jong. About a year ago, I was speaking along with Kees van der Vleuten at an academic day in London where we had senior assessment leads and heads of medical schools, and we were talking about programmatic assessment. And the feeling amongst the audience was this all sounds wonderful, but it's very difficult to deliver within the restrictions posed by the regulatory frameworks, both local and on a national level. And then within a few months, we had COVID-19, which acted as a catalyst, enabling many changes by removing some of the bureaucratic barriers for medical schools, and also directed attention towards programmatic assessment that might have the potential to address many of the challenges that we are currently grappling with. So we're delighted to have a series of talks today on programmatic assessment. And to begin this webinar, I want to invite Doctors Mary Sophie Buscher and Roel Smebers to talk about programmatic assessment in practice. Over to you, Roel and Mary Sophie.
Thank you. Thank you, Amir. I think we're gonna see our presentation soon. Yeah, there it is. I hope you can hear us well at this moment. So thank you very much for having us here today. Let me see how I can get to the next slide. Yeah. We have about 15 minutes and you all gonna have today a wonderful conference about programmatic assessment. So we're not gonna talk about programmatic assessment in this 15 minutes, but a little about the to share some ideas about Scorion is a practical platform to organize and to realize programmatic assessment. So my name is Roel Smebers. I'm the CEO of Programmatic Company from the Netherlands, and we're working on programmatic assessment platform for about 15 years, but we didn't call it 15 years ago programmatic assessment. We just wanted to measure and to visualize education and to record education. I'm a sociologist and a technician, and so I thought it must be possible in one way to visualize the growth of people. And that's where we started. And at the same time, more or less, Professor van der Vleuten also started with his ideas about programmatic assessment. And that's why we're very happy, finally, that we got a name for what we're doing for the last 15 years. It's called programmatic assessment, actually. So I'm here with my colleague, Marie. She'll introduce herself later. Well, what are we going to show you, talk about a little about the practice of the practical side of programmatic assessment, so how you implement it, because the concept is well, can be pretty complex. It always has a change in the way of educating, so it's not always that simple, and we got a lot of questions about that. What's important is that we have tomorrow a Q&A session. I'll show you, I guess I show you the link. I hope you can see it. Yeah. Tomorrow there is a Q&A session. We talk about it later on in this session, and Marie will tell you all about it. So for now, let me see the next slide. Oh, here it is. Well, about programmatic assessment today, you're going to talk a whole day about it. So probably you even know more about it than I do. But what we do is recording as many data points as we can. And finally, to make better decisions about the progress that the students are making, and to get some real solid evidence. And if we do so, the question is, how can we make it work? And then what we see in practice is four challenges, four big challenges, where we're going to talk about tomorrow even more. If there is any questions about it, we see you tomorrow then. But the first one is, how can you make it work without disrupting your educational or work process? Because all this measuring, we get a lot of questions about it. Doesn't this disrupt your education? Well, it doesn't have to be that way. So you can measure a lot during education, during the process, without even disturbing this process. So that's one. The second is, how can you keep it simple and maintainable? Because the program can be a curriculum for programmatic assessments, need a lot of testing. So how do you get all these tests maintainable in a system? And the third question is, how do you measure what you really want to measure so that you can be sure that you have a right and solid, how do you say that? That you have a solid evidence about, yeah, thank you, Marie, about what the student's progress is. And the last one is, how do you present all this data properly on a dashboard for a student, that the student can see how he or she is doing, but also for the assessors. So this is one. These are mostly the questions what we're gonna that we're facing in practice. And what we actually want to do is the practical education through all kinds of forms or devices. You can even speak into an app. Transform this into data on a dashboard. So I think, Marie, you're going to tell how we do that a little more.
So yes, hello everyone. Welcome to the EBMA. My name is Marie Büscher and I'm the Scorion manager for Germany and International. I'm working for Parantium since 2019, and we are now running projects in Germany, South Africa, and Australia. I wanted to give you a brief introduction into what Scorion is. So Scorion is an e-portfolio for workplace learning and programmatic assessment, and it is especially made for the whole feedback process and workplace learning process. It is based on online forms and dashboards, and you can use it with any device you can imagine. So with your laptop, with your mobile phone, or your tablet. We have many different test forms and feedback processes available in the system. So, for example, a mini CX, this is very familiar with the medical people here, I guess. It's a feedback form filled in by an assessor for a student, or a multi-source feedback. I guess you all know what it is. And what is very special about Scorion is that you have your own content management system. So without having any programming knowledge, institutes can create their own content, their own forms, and their own dashboards in the system. Yes, where Scorion used. So 15 years ago, we started implementing the first project in the Netherlands. And nowadays, 80% of the medical study programs in the Netherlands are using Scorion. And to give you some examples, like medicine study programs, dentistry, or nursing. I guess since 2 or 3 years, I guess 2 years, we are busy in a lot of other countries like Germany, Australia, South Africa, and China. And we see that programmatic assessment around the world is increasing a lot. And to give you a brief insight into how many forms are filled in a day, that are more than 10,000 feedback forms, and that are more than 800,000 questions each day. So this is a lot of data that we are processing.
80 questions per form.
Yeah.
Average.
Yes, so how does Scorion actually work? So there are students and assessors that give some input in the system. So you can, the input can be any educational data you can imagine, like activities, evaluations, or feedback. And the data comes into the system through a private cloud. And especially in medical area, it is very important that data is always safe. This is why we have the highest European standard of data security. And yeah, the output is actually data. So a lot of universities or institutions use the data to do research with it, but you can also create dashboards with the things that you want to measure. And let's have a look at those dashboards. So here I picked an example from a Dutch dentistry study program. And here we are logged in as a student and we see the dashboard from the student. And they use EPAs as a concept, as educational concept. And here you can see the score from the student on the different EPAs on average, but also on time, quantitatively, qualitatively. And the next example that I have chosen is the one from the Macquarie University in Australia. So on the right hand, you see an example of a self-created form. So you can really adapt the look and feel from the university. And it is really easy to create those forms by yourself. And on the left side, you have a totally different dashboard. This is, I think they are using a 5-point scale and different colors. And yeah, what I actually want to say is that you can create whatever you want. You can measure what you want to measure with the system. So now we are at the end of our presentation, and tomorrow we have a Q&A session. Ru already said it. You can just scan this QR code. We also put the Zoom link in the chat. So we warmly invite you to join us tomorrow. Ru, are there any things you want to add?
No, I think it's pretty clear. Everyone who'd like to join us, we can see you tomorrow. We have, I believe, a little time to take some questions right now, if there are. I think we have about 2 or 3 minutes left. I'm not sure if there is any questions. Do we see them? Oh yeah, there is a question from Mike. Can the ePortfolio data be kept on the UK server because of the GDPR? Yeah, after Brexit. That's a good question. Yes, Mike. Yes, it can. We do it with other countries. If you want to have it hosted on your own, then we make a note locally. So that's possible. Yeah. Thank you for this question. And well, maybe you come back to Europe in a while, then you can use the service in Europe. I hope so. Okay. Is there any more questions? There is no, and it's perfectly clear. Oh, there's a. Thank you. Let me check. Let me see. Oh.
I think we don't.
This is it. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
And we were very happy that we could show you just a little about Scorion, and I hope to see you tomorrow. And I wish you all the best today with the conference.
Yes.
And we're going to stay in the conference as well.
Yes. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So obviously, as people start to think about programmatic assessment, access to the tools that enable the introduction of programmatic assessment is key. We've got the right tools for high-stakes exams, but if you're going to introduce lots of low-stakes exams and integrate the data from those and collate data, one needs to think about the right tools for this. So thank you very much for.
Thank you, Amir.
Okay, Roberta, if there are no